Celtics, brought to you by Ice Picks and the Game Time app.
What's up, everyone? This is Celtics Beat. Welcome back. Welcome back to me, I suppose. I wasn't here last week. Ev held down the fort. A great conversation with Chad Finn of the Boston Globe that I would encourage that you check out. You know, I think we do humbly a decent enough job around here to break down the coverage of the Celtics from our own way of thinking, and obviously that of the guests who join this program. And we'll get to our guest here in a moment, though if you're watching, you can already see who it is. But I think taking an interesting turn to basically talk about the coverage of the media with the media, in doing so with Chad Finn of the Globe, as Ev did last week. It was a fun and interesting episode surrounding, obviously, the national coverage of Jayson Tatum, not just what we do here locally in Boston, and sort of handicapping people in a way of speaking. So do check it out, subscribe, rate, review, all of that good stuff with the podcast, and hopefully you won't be disappointed. I don't think if people are disappointed, because I listened to the show via the CLNS Media Network page on YouTube, so I was watching and listening at the same time versus just listening to the audio. And usually I'll go straight to the comments and just to see if there's vitriol, if it's a cesspool, and really I didn't see anything. Nope, nobody dumping on you, nobody dumping on Chad, just enjoying the conversation. Maybe it's because I wasn't there, I don't know. Either way, we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing for me was that, and I'm like this really quick, but the thing with that episode was, like, it's been kind of driving me crazy, all the attention that Jayson Tatum has gotten for playing, not playing, and I just find it very interesting that I think he's maybe one of the few guys that would kind of create that kind of news cycle with not playing. And I just found it interesting that this guy who has done a lot on the national stage, like, him not playing is just a major story. So I found it very interesting. Chad was great on it. You know, it's a combination of things as to why he's sort of not electric, but he just seems to be a lightning rod for a lot of conversation. And I basically get used to it, everybody, because this is going to keep happening. These guys are going to continue to be guys that drive conversations and dominate news cycles, and it's just starting to get ready for it and prepare yourself for it, Greeny. You know, as well as anybody else knows, like, anything happens with Tatum, it's just banana land probably in your timeline and in your mentions. So I can only.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason. Yeah, there's a reason.
Well, hang on. I got to at least welcome to the show. I haven't welcomed him yet. Dan Greenberg is here from Barstool Sports. For anyone that just jumps in on the YouTube thing. All right, now talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there's a reason. Anytime ESPN puts out like a first take clip or a Hoops Collective clip, it's always a picture of Jayson Tatum, because they know when you want to rage bait or spark engagement, all you have to do is just mention his name, and it's going to get you probably more attention than maybe any current player in the league right now. Whether it's good attention or bad attention, he moves the needle. So,
well, I would say that Jayson Tatum has received some good attention lately, and I'll get into that. Jaylen Brown, maybe some questionable attention as of today, and we will talk about that as well. And the latest as it relates to ownership for the Boston Celtics. No significant updates, but just sort of the rumor mongering, if you will, on social media. We can address some of that, but I guess we can. Well, let's start with the ownership thing. We could circle back to Tatum and to Brown as well. Because the ownership thing is, even though it's not necessarily news, it's still newsworthy in that Bill Simmons, of course, of the Ringer, and we had one of his employees and our friends and former, I guess, kind of sort of Syracuse classmate, even though we weren't there at the same time, Brian Barrett, on with us.
This is me. We're good.
Yeah, well, you guys were. I wasn't. I'm an old fart over here. But Simmons talked about how his understanding, his sources, his whatever, Jeff Bezos, of course, the Amazon founder and multi-billionaire, like net worth of $200 billion, was very interested. I don't remember exactly what the phrasing was, but interested in buying the Celtics, as we know, for sale. And that was quickly shut down by a high-end newsletter or website or subscription service that I had never even heard of, because I'm not high end, called The Information, which apparently has a $300 annual subscription to their content. But you don't have to subscribe to
to read the preview. I clicked on it.
Yeah, exactly. And the preview very simply says Jeff Bezos does not plan to bid on the Boston Celtics. And, here's the scoop from Nick Wingfield, who is the writer over there at The Information. Zero truth to the Simmons report. So there's a lot here, I guess, in the sense that, again, $200 billion net worth for Bezos. The Celtics are probably going to be sold in the neighborhood of $6 billion. So while it sounds like a lot of money to the three of us, and odds are anybody out there listening, drop in the bucket for somebody like Bezos, but he is not getting into the sports ownership game. At least that appears to be the deal. And as we know, others have sort of been removed from the conversation, like FSG. It doesn't sound like John Henry and company, thank goodness, are getting involved. And so it just seems to kind of continually revert back, at least in terms of the leader that we all know about. And there could be some rando that jumps in. That wouldn't be surprising at all. There's a lot of money and a lot of people that want to get involved in owning sports teams and groups and all of that. But is the best case scenario in your mind, guys, and Greeny, we'll start with you, that it ends up being Pags, Steve Pagliuca, of course, one of the minority owners to date, who does, at least with a group, have the funds and is interested in buying out the Grossbeck family and becoming the majority owners. Is that what Celtics fans should be rooting for?
So for me, I have my own personal 4 rules of what this prospective buyer needs to follow for me to get behind them owning the team.
Okay.
Number 1, they need to publicly announce their complete devotion as Brad Stevens as their Lord and Savior. Whatever he says goes. You don't question it. He says, I want to do X. You say, have fun. So right off the bat, you need to express your devotion for him to be your Lord and Savior. Number 2, I need it understood, whether it can be in writing or, again, a verbal commitment. You need to be okay with and be willing to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on luxury tax penalties. If you're not down to do that, I don't even want you in the room in terms of being an option. That's number 2. Number 3, I need you to be fully on board with Missoula ball and everything that it stands for. So if you don't like how the Celtics play, I don't want you owning the Boston Celtics. If you don't believe in Joe Mazzulla and what he stands for and how he views the game and sort of running the ship, you're out. And number 4, and you kind of touched on it, is it just can't be John Henry and FSG. That may be number 1 for some people, but it's on my list. Anybody else but them, if you check all those boxes, we're okay. I don't care. It could be Jeff Bezos and a tech quadrillionaire. It could be Pags. I think from a fan perspective, we're all like on the Pags train just from the continuity. The idea is he wouldn't shake things up. Yeah, but I would say this. Pags needs to be willing to spend the money for me to get behind him. That, for me, is the most important thing. My guess, I looked it up. He's worth, I think, $3.2 billion. I don't know if he would be part of a group or the sole owner, but the idea that I, in my fantasy, would like to support is give him the team. He knows where they are. He understands the moment that they're in, so he'll be willing to cut the check. For me, that's the most important thing. And I just think, it would be nice to have someone that's tied to the city and tied to the culture. But I do think we sort of hit the lottery with the whole Wyc Grousbeck ownership group. Like, that's the exception to me, as opposed to the rule of a local guy that was a fan, that loves the team, that can, put together a group to support the costs. So I'm rooting for Pags, but only if he is truly going to spend what it takes to keep this window open.
I mean, I'll fight a couple of those. I think, I think Brad has a great head and the shoulders, and I want to just touch on they should stay out of the way, right? Like, whoever comes in as the owner, stay out of the way. Let the guys that are actually that you hire to do these things, let them do their jobs. Nobody likes the meddling owner.
Not looking for a Jerry Jones, for instance.
No. And even like James Dolan is kind of vacillated in between being the guy that meddles, the guy that doesn't. Right now he's not, which is why the Knicks, I think, have been very good. He's hired some good people. Sometimes he meddles, and that's when the Knicks go down the tube, right? So I'm big on the trust in Brad Stevens. He knows what he's doing. Just let him cook, right? The Mazzulla thing I find interesting is I think Joe is a fantastic coach. I mean, look, I've been very pro Joe Mazzulla on this podcast for a very long time. I do believe in messages being stale at certain points. I think, I would not be afraid to move on from Mazzulla at a certain point.
I just won a championship. Ev's already
10 years down the road. If it's just not cutting it, it's just not cutting it anymore. Again, sometimes messages get stale. Sometimes it takes 2 years. Sometimes it takes 5. Sometimes it takes 10. When you're Belichick, it takes 20. Right. So I'm okay with moving on pending how things go. But
I don't think Greeny's giving him a lifetime contract right now. He's just saying believe in
I think Greeny's very
he signed that lifetime deal, and as long as he wants the job, that's signed in blood. Okay,
you don't believe that. If, like Ev says, if 5 years from now, for whatever a couple guys have been traded away because the owner isn't willing to pay all those luxury taxes and the team sucks, and people point at the coach first, you're not just going to say bring in the right pieces. You're going to point at the coach too.
Let me tell you, I'll point him into an office next to Brad Stevens upstairs. That brain needs to be part of this organization until he decides one day that he doesn't want to do it. I've felt that way since his first preseason game in his first year, and I believe it even more so now after he has obviously accomplished what we've all been waiting for nearly 2 decades. So I'm still riding high. You're not chopping me down after this.
Oh no, I don't want to. I mean, I'm like you sickos, and we were all like, what would have Mazzulla had done with this Team USA team instead of Steve Kerr? They would have blown everybody out by 45 points.
I'm not even touching that.
But close. Don't even. We're all big Mazzulla guys in here. Let's just get that out of the way. Yeah, the idea of spending though is huge, right? When you purchase the Boston Celtics, there has to be at least an idea of, hey, this team is expensive to run. And Adam, you were the captain of this ship for so long. I'll believe Wick and company that they'll spend money when they actually do it. And what's funny is they're actually kind of getting out right.
But that's such a boss move.
No, the
boss move of just paying everybody and then being like, all right, I did my part.
They finally came in and spent and said, all right, yeah. I mean, we said when we have a title contender, we'll spend on it. Sure enough, it's just, got a little too deep for their pockets, unfortunately. And look, we in our own microscopic ways, we can relate to that. Sometimes the finer things in life cost a little more than we want to. Well, the Boston Celtics at this version of them cost a little bit more than Irv Grousbeck wants to pay.
Quick break from today's show to tell you today's show is powered by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. And it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and just watch the winnings roll in. You get on the daily action with your friends and become part of the ginormous Prize Picks community today. And with football season coming, folks, we have so many opportunities to play every single week. And Prize Picks is a bonus for Caleb Williams in week 1. He has to throw 1 passing yard. Okay. Every week in September, 1 passing yard gets you 1 win. It's a free win from Prize Picks. Every single football weekend in September, he has to throw for 1 yard. You think Caleb Williams is going to throw for 1 yard every single weekend? I think so. That's a good play. Easy play. Easy money. You think Tyreek Hill's going to get over at 90.5 yards in week 1? Or Aaron Jones is going to run for more than 66.5 yards in week 1? Well, cook up your hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. It's super easy, right? Again, if you want to bank money, that Caleb Williams one is super easy. Every single week, I mean, I know the Patriots offensive line is bad, but I would take a look at what Ramondre Stevenson's rushing yards are because they're probably going to be pretty low. Take a look at that. All right, just an idea for you guys out there, okay? It's going to be super fun, super easy, and you can join today by going to the Prize Picks app. You can download it, use the code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS
for a first deposit match up to $100. I made my first $10 deposit. I received an instant $10 bonus, right? It's super easy. If you have the skills, you can play for a shot at turning your $10 into 1,000. Again, that's go to the Prize Picks app, download that code CLNS, and you get a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game.
Right. Totally reasonable. But the one thing that I'm actually glad this kind of morphed in this direction, because I had this kind of bucketed for later, and now we can do it. I have an interesting theory about the new owner theory with this team. Like Matt Ishbia, right, comes into Phoenix, first thing does, trade for Kevin Durant. Like,
Right.
you just can't help yourself, right? He's out there, he's available. We'd rather have Kevin Durant than I have Kevin Durant. Like, who cares? Let's get him, right?
Right.
I don't know with this team if there'll be new owner syndrome because of what the current ownership group just did. They locked everybody up. This team's ready to rock. Like, you don't need to go out there and search for Kevin Durant to make you more competitive, to kind of light a fire. Like, oh, I'm here. Like, here we go. Right. If you like, I just don't think the pressure to do that will be there as much as it is for other ownership groups. Like, I go back to Ishbia because he couldn't freaking wait to just do something, make a splash, get somebody in here, get things going. Right. I don't think there'll be that kind of pressure because they're coming off a championship.
There could be zero pressure. Zero.
Yeah.
You've signed everyone. It's a run it back. It's if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of situation. They even arguably improved a little bit with some of the very minor moves they made in the offseason, in addition to obviously the contracts and bringing people back. I think what you're talking about, Ev, is, you know, and we don't know because we don't know who the owner is going to be unless it's Pags, you know, who we do know a little bit in terms of, you know, the way he operates, but it's a personality driven thing more than anything else. If you have someone like, you know, Ishbia, who, yes, there was the pressure, but it also seems to be in his DNA to want to, you know, get in and sort of do some things a little bit, kind of like, you know, obviously a Jerry Jones or a, you know, going way back to like Jerry Buss, or, you know, like some guys just want to come in and make their impact. I mean, if it were like, I don't know about you guys, if it were me, and obviously there is no version in like, there's not even an alternate timeline that exists to where I would be the owner of the Boston Celtics or any other sports team, professional or otherwise, quite frankly. But like, I would be such a no-show owner from a, like, I'll talk to the media or whatever if you want to talk to me, but from the standpoint of like, if I am inheriting or purchasing, I guess, a team that is roll the balls out, ready to go out and win a championship next year, I don't want anything to do with it. Like, all of my people are in place on the floor, coaching staff, front office, training staff, athletics, you name it. Like, go have fun, do your thing. I don't like, call me if there's a problem. I'm going to be sitting courtside watching the games, just enjoying life. That's how I want the new owner to come in. And I don't know, you know, if it's in the personality makeup of these billionaires or you know, multi-millionaires to even operate that way, because most of them don't function that way. Most of them have made their fortune, unless they inherited their fortune. Most of them have made their fortune by being aggressive and hands-on and getting involved and, you know, trying to turn negatives into positives or whatever. But to your point, Ev, like, there are no negatives. Not right now. There will be. There will be. Like, we're not delusional to the fact that, you know, the Celtics, yeah, like, they could lose this coming year, and they may sit there and say, okay, with all these luxury tax penalties on the way, do we need to make a move to improve our team? That depends. Do you go down in round one? Do you go down in the championship round? Do you lose in 7 games in the NBA Finals? I just think it's such a personality thing, what you're talking about, because nobody in their right mind anyway could possibly purchase this team and say, what can I do to change things up around here a little bit? It just doesn't make sense.
Right. It's like you buy a new build mansion, fully furnished. All you have to do is bring your toothbrush. You buy it, and then you're like, oh, let me gut this entire house. It like doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I will ask you this. While they may avoid new owner syndrome in terms of the roster, financials, all that stuff, my fear is the new owner syndrome for this team will be, we're going to take the Celtics out of the Garden and try to build a new arena somewhere else in the city.
That's going to happen. That's happening.
Like, I want them to stay where they are. I think that is so much of a fabric of the personality and what makes this team special. I don't, even if it's like an arena in the Seaport, I don't think that would feel the same. So
why do you feel that way? I mean, let's remember, like, this isn't the old, like, Larry Bird, Bill Russell, etc. Garden. Like, this was the Fleet Center.
Yeah.
That, was
only funny for nostalgia for that particular reason right there. Fleet Center. That's the fact.
I mean,
it's like Schaefer Stadium. Like Schaefer Stadium has no history, right?
This is it's a nice building. I had season tickets there for a while. I enjoy going. I enjoy watching games there. I like the fact that they share a building with the Bruins. And I'm not talking about the financial elements of it. I just mean, like, I think it's cool, the bowl gang and the changeover and looking up and seeing championship banners and retired numbers of both teams. Like, I think that's awesome. I think that's a lot of fun. But removing all of that, like, I don't feel like this building has an identity per se. Like, when people say the whole, like, it's tough to win in Boston, for people that believe that, or players that believe that, I don't think it has anything to do with the building. I think it's the fan base, and I think it's
I think it's in just such a good spot. I just think I
have no loyalty to the TD Garden whatsoever. Go ahead, build a new building of your own.
I don't know. I don't want to call anything. Would they be able to keep the name Garden? Like, I don't want to call it the Amazon Dome, or, I don't know. I'm nostalgic like that. So for me, I kind of just would fear that they would uproot it and it would just ruin the experience. But like you said, I don't think we have to worry about drastically changing the roster. I don't, it's not like they have a bunch of money to spend to give out bad contracts. So it's like, I think that's sort of maybe what Brad and Wick were ahead of the game with, of like, hey, let's prevent that new owner from making bad decisions in terms of, pulling off these crazy trades, because we're going to handcuff ourselves with these second apron rules where we won't even be able to do those things. So that's my hope. But I think if it goes to someone like Pags, you won't have to worry about any of that stuff.
And this is
I agree. I think he's comfortable continuing to pay rent to the Bruins, basically. But a new owner, if it were like a Bezos type, yeah, I think they'd come in, want their own building.
Yeah.
This is why I'm pro Bezos. I think well, first off, pro Bezos because he's just has more money than anybody else. Before I even get to this, do people not think that Simmons just isn't, like, well sourced on this? Because I know, like, the whatever this newsletter is, like, I've never heard of it, never heard of the guy. Like, all of a sudden, this guy says Bezos is out. And I'm like, wait a minute. I have no idea where this is coming from. Meanwhile, Simmons, I don't think Simmons would throw this out there on his podcast if he didn't have it well sourced.
He's always he's been ahead. Like, he was ahead of the game on the Clippers sale. Like, for whatever reason, when it comes to this aspect of the league and what people are doing, he always seems to have an idea and an inside track. So I tend to believe more the Simmons side than the Bezos side, because, like, how do we know this isn't just what every billionaire does when they're in the process of getting in a bidding war? You deny it first, and then you're actually behind the scenes, figuring out a way to make it happen. So I think no matter, like, same thing with John, I think Fenway Sports Group is, kicking the rocks on it. I just think it's protocol for all these interested parties to deny first, just for whatever, I don't know if it gives you a competitive advantage or what. But I didn't believe, you knew the denial was coming as soon as Simmons broke out, the leak.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, whenever, like, and these are not the same, this is apples to oranges, but whenever, like, groups led by, and when I say led by, I don't mean financially, I mean the face.
Like the KG group, and yeah,
the KG group, or the A-Rod group, or the Magic Johnson group, or, like, when these guys and obviously the money behind them are interested in buying, like, they will scream it from the rooftops. They couldn't tell you fast enough. Like, there's no like bidding strategy when it comes to playing coy and denial and any, like, but again, maybe that's levels of money that we're talking about, and you go up the ladder and the approach changes. I have no idea. I can't relate to it, obviously. I don't even know anybody who I could talk to about that type of thing. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying, like, Simmons made it up or anything like that. I just think bottom line is, we're going to know soon enough. Either we're going to find out that Bezos is interested and puts in a bid, and therefore Simmons was right, or you're never going to hear Jeff Bezos associated with the Celtics ever again, and Simmons was wrong. It's that simple. So, time will bear that out.
I mean, with camp opening in a month, do we think we're even going to know who at least is in the bidding?
I don't think this team is going to be sold by the end of 2024.
Okay. Well, I don't even mean sold. Even just like, hey, these are the people who are in, like you mentioned, like we heard about the KG group. We heard about Steve Ballmer. Like, do you think we'll even know who aside from Pags? Because he was quick to announce that he was going to pursue it. But I mean, the last thing I want is this to be a distraction coming into camp when we're all trying to focus on repeating as champions. Like,
but what would be distracting? Like
I don't know, just like asking them, like, do you care about the ownership? Are you nervous about things changing? I don't know. I mean, anything the media will use to try to create, something is, you can't rule it out. But
I just can't think of a single thing Tatum, Brown, whoever, Missoula, Brad, like that any of them could be asked in relation to the team being for sale and a potential ownership group that would be an awkward answer that could be used against them.
Yeah, Tatum kind of dodged it, right? They asked him, like, as soon as the sale was announced, he was like, yeah, it was kind of weird, but whatever, like that's above my pay grade. So maybe they just,
and it is like, it's just so far above all of their heads that it's like it, media asking any of them about it just feels, I mean, you got to do it because you have a job to do, but in terms of any sort of answer that you would get, it feels so irrelevant. Like those aren't even articles that I'm looking forward to reading. You're not going to get anything out of them.
I think, do you have to worry about, like, I think the angle could be like, oh, do you have to worry about Tatum and Brown asking out if they don't like who the new owner is, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the usual routine.
I don't know. Is Phil over at Nike going to buy the team? Then sure.
Yeah. Maybe.
Otherwise, I'm not so sure. All right. Well,
this is why I'm pro Bezos, though. Like, I'm very pro Bezos owning the team because of the fact that he could finance a new stadium, and it would probably be the coolest stadium that you've ever seen. And
I just don't.
I get the nostalgia thing from Greeny. Like, I get that. I totally get that. I think the nostalgia went out the window when they tore the old garden down and they built the Fleet Center. And I think if we're comfortable desecrating that, right, we got to be comfortable taking this down too. And I think when time heals all wounds, except if they were to tear down Fenway Park. But I do think that the Amazon Dome, if they were to do it, would be awesome and just the coolest venue that outside of like the Sphere in Vegas would be just the coolest place.
Well, you guys I'm sure you've seen the Intuit Dome, right? The Clippers' new arena. That thing looks insane. So
I can't wait for the first game there. It's going to look awesome.
Yeah. So obviously it would, there'd probably be some sort of like, payless concessions where it's tied to your Amazon account or whatever. Like that would be cool. Like I can understand
no wallets. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Like no wallets, any of that stuff. Maybe we would have 4 times the league average of toilets to beat the Clippers 3 times the league average of toilets. I don't know. But
there's always a line, man. They need some more toilets at the Garden.
Dude, Amazon robots.
Because I was molded by the Fleet Center, like I'm a 90s kid. I was too young for the old original Boston Garden. So for me, I'm just like, that's where it all started for me. So I don't know.
There's some history there in that they've won a couple championships, but it's literally a couple. Like that. Right. I mean, it's not. I mean, we're talking about a building that's. I mean, is it even? It's not even 40 years old. Like it's barely 30 years old, I think. So this. Yeah, I can't be nostalgic about that. You want to talk about the old Garden because I am old enough to remember, or obviously we can all relate to Fenway Park. Sure, I'll get more nostalgic over the old Foxborough Stadium than I will the TD Garden, and I think they're doing just fine with Gillette. Although it's only a matter of time until they spruce that place up a little bit too. So, God, and that's barely 20 years old. All right, I mean there are only so many places we can go with the ownership thing. Although, I guess I'll cap the Bezos thing with this because Ev, you keep saying how excited you would be about Bezos, and for all the different arena reasons that you just outlined, I get it. But do any of us, and I ask this like I don't have any knowledge or even opinion of Jeff Bezos in any, like as a guy, like do we feel like obviously he has the deepest of pockets, so money's no issue if he wants to spend it on the team, but in terms of him and his personality and how he would be as an owner, do we have any feelings about Jeff Bezos, the dude?
I don't think I've ever even heard him talk, to be honest. Like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know, but I feel like you can just have him follow the Wick blueprint, right? Like, Brad in the basketball office, they'll figure it all out. When it works, then you just step in front of the mic and talk about how it was all your idea. And that's all I need from him. Like how many times have we heard, oh, it was, my idea to put the group together, my idea to do the KG trade, my idea to trade Marcus Smart. Okay, like fine. It's like if that's what you need to take your credit, boom, then just stay out of the way, like you said. So my thought is because like, I don't know, is he even a sports fan, Jeff Bezos? Like, I don't even know how he, when have you ever seen him in the crowd at any sort of sporting event? I don't know. So as long as he's just cool with like staying behind the scenes, and then when it comes time to speaking, he can take all the credit for it, and we'll just kind of go from there.
And we're powered by Game Time. Football season, it's here. Don't let people tell you football season's coming, because listen, the college football season, that is, literally days away. And the NFL season, that is beginning September 5th. It is right around the corner. The time to start planning is coming up. The season with our friends over at Game Time, a great opportunity to get out to games, obviously. Game Time is a new feature. It is called Game Time Picks. Makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams, like the Patriots, for instance, play live so easy. So incredibly easy, Ev. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff, okay? Shows you incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. There's so many other places that you get bogged down. Game Time, it just makes things so easy.
Yeah, my favorite part, I was scrolling through it the other day, and I was like, this is what's really great is sometimes you have a significant other at home, Adam. Some of us do as well. And sometimes you look at your significant other and say, what do you want to do today? Because I don't know. What do you want to do today? Well, guess what? Game Time has something for you. You can be a little spontaneous. Get a little inspiration from Game Time. Let them help you with their This Weekend tab. Scroll through and find some events that are, around your area. They'll give you the price of everything. You can grab your tickets, have them right on your phone out of the house. It only takes a few minutes for you to do so, and curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater. All of it is shown up front. No surprise fees at checkouts, which is my least favorite thing about buying tickets anywhere. And you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, Kaufman. It's just way easier.
Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Use Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS. Again, that is code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code. It is CLNS, $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. Let's get back to the show. All right, let's get to some of the fun stuff. So I mentioned Jayson Tatum is had a fun week. So he was just at the Garden, as was Drew Holiday, supporting the Connecticut Sun, who were winners in the WNBA's first ever game at the TD Garden. Obviously, the first professional women's basketball game in Boston. So awesome, and I love those guys were there supporting it. It's a good product for anyone that doesn't follow or know or watch occasionally or hasn't trekked to Mohegan to see a game or something like that. There is no question, not that I think it's anything imminent, but there is no question that Boston could handle a professional women's basketball team. I don't think we need to just have a New England team there at Mohegan Sun an hour and a half or whatever away. They could have a team of their own. You can have two teams in New England as the league continues to expand. But that was cool. I think the also cool thing that has absolutely nothing to do with that as the championship tour continues. I'm sure you guys saw all the social media stuff with Tatum out at home, at St. Louis, went to a Cardinals game, recreated the infamous bus photo shoot, it was a photo shoot, but the photo from when he was a kid with Matt Tkachuk, who of course was a champion as well with the Florida Panthers this year. They even brought back the dude who was sitting behind them in the seat for the pictures, which I don't know if that I'm sure that I don't is he still friends with them? Is like what's he doing in life? Did they like dig him up out of wherever and say, hey, can you come do this? Like I don't know if he's still in the circle or if that was just a fun little thing that whoever was taking the photos decided to do. I think it was great. I love that he was there. I don't know where he is in life. What hopefully he's very successful. Obviously he's not a professional athlete like the other two. I feel like if I was the guy sitting, like the kid back then sitting in that seat and I was in the picture, and then I haven't talked to either of these guys in whatever the math,
years, yeah.
15 years. And then someone calls me and it's like, hey, we're doing these pictures. Could you come just sit here and smile? I feel like I'd be semi-insulted by that. I'm not sure I'd be really enthusiastic about it. But like I said, maybe the three of them are still friendly. I have no idea.
See, I'm the opposite. I would be telling every person I could see about the time I was sitting behind these two champions on the school bus. Like, I don't know, that's just like a fun fact about yourself that nobody else on the planet can speak to. But I'll say this about his championship tour. I love it for him. I love it for us that we get to enjoy it and see it. But it terrifies me that the NBA is going to expand to St. Louis one day. And the second that they do, Jayson Tatum is going to play for the NBA team in St. Louis. So
I don't think that's going to happen for a while, though. I think we're good. I know. Well, it needs to happen after he retires. We get Tatum's prime. That's really about it, because I don't see that. I mean, look, Vegas hasn't happened yet.
You can have Paul Pierce, Jayson Tatum at that point. That's okay.
I think.
Yeah, I just I fear. I mean, that is the only team that I think could pull. Now that he's won a championship in Boston, and he doesn't have to be like, oh, I need to go somewhere else to win. I think a team in St. Louis is the only thing that could get him to have a little bit of a wandering eye in terms of where he wants to play.
Yeah, I think the parade solidified that. Like, I think they've all talked about how awesome that parade was. I think Brissett was like, could we do that again? Can we go around?
Wrap around?
Like, let's just run. Like, so yeah, to your point, like, that's the only thing. And there's like some actual like security in that. That's like the best feeling ever. The fact that now that they've won and experienced winning, like this, it's a wrap. These guys are, Tatum especially, he's like, they ain't going anywhere. We're going to be just fine. I enjoy.
Please knock on wood around you as we all say that. So
that the photo, just to give you my take, I'm with Greeny on this. I would absolutely eat up every second of it. I'd be thrilled. I'd be honored. I would be like, what do you guys want me to like put on for like clothing? I will be the best third wheel in the history of third wheels.
Yeah.
Photo, buddy. Trust me.
It's like Scal. It's like in 10 years, I'm just his friend. In 15 years, I was actually the one that taught them how to play basketball and hockey. In 20 years, they're going to think I won a championship. Like that's right. Just, that's how I would approach it.
They weren't even friends until I sat them together.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even know each other. And then all of a sudden, I brought them together.
It was. He goes full wick. It was my idea for those guys to sit.
Right. They weren't even sitting together until I was like, you know what? I think you guys would be great friends. And then I just made it happen.
I actually taught Jayson Tatum how to tie that tie.
Yeah.
You guys wouldn't believe it.
He was a half Windsor guy until I, talked some sense
into full Windsor man. Yeah, for sure.
You should see him tie a sneaker. Showed him that one too. It was unbelievable. So the only other thing, and I did not know this until Greeny brought this to my attention. So it is very possible that if you've not been surfing Twitter, that you listening out there or watching don't know this either. Apparently, Jaylen Brown has dropped a track. He's got a do I call it a rap song? Kind of more
feature,
of an R&B.
Yeah, it's a feature. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a song. I don't know that there's an album coming necessarily, but there's a song very easily searchable on Twitter. I mean, literally just search Jaylen Brown. It'll pop up pretty quickly and you can listen to it. It's 2-3 minutes long. It's not a diss track or anything like that for anyone wondering, based on, his mood this summer and, feeling disrespected for a variety of reasons, the no all NBA stuff, and obviously everything with Nike and the Olympics and all of that. I've not even listened to the entire song. I listened to like half of it. But what I will say is this. I know it's a Celtics themed podcast, an NBA podcast. But I'll kind of say the same thing that I said when Jayson Tatum sneakers were first, we first had renderings of what those sneakers were going to look like, and they are much, much improved since then. I don't know for anyone that remembers the very first images that leaked to the web of what the Tatum sneakers were going to look like. Mm-hmm. They were awful. They were absolutely terrible. And you did not have to be a Celtics fan, a Jayson Tatum fan, and simply say, like, these are great because they're Tatum. Like, no, you could look at them objectively.
They were gross.
And by the way, like, there are some nice Tatum, colorways out there now. Like, my kids have some Tatums. They're nice. There's some really nice, like, I would wear some Tatums right now as some of them that exist. When they came out, but ugly. I say all of that because Jaylen's song sucks. It's really bad. I love Jaylen Brown. The song is terrible. Not everyone is cut out to be a rapper. I sure as hell can't be a rapper. They're like, I can't sing. I can't, because he does try and sing a little bit on this. He rhymes, but the rapping is not good. It's not a good song. In the same way that I can like hate every fiber of my being, Kyrie Irving, for a lot of the Boston existence and quite frankly some of the other things. Ridiculous is a jam, man. That song rocks. I love it. I absolutely love it. So we can put the professional and the personal aside. We can separate the artist from the work, or whatever the saying goes. So I'm rambling, but I just, people should check out the song, form your own opinion. Just don't like, oh, it's awesome, like I love this song because Jaylen. No. Greeny, we were talking about it earlier. Like Marcus Smart's 52 million or whatever.
That bangs.
That was a much better song. Much better song. Marcus, you one up Jaylen there.
I'll just say this, regardless of what you think about it, when you win a title, you get to do whatever you want. And I just think that's if that's put out a documentary, put out a feature on a rap song, put out a full album. You have that grace period until the first day of camp where I don't really care what you do. Given what he did for me in my life for 2 months in the playoffs, if it's awful, okay, that's great, but he gets a pass because you're still under that protection of, bringing home a Larry. So he gets a pass for me, even though, I'm not putting it on, my iTunes. I'm not going to be listening to it in my car, but at the same time, he still gets a pass for me because, we're still riding high.
I'll just say this about Jaylen. I saw this NBC Sports Boston had it, and I saw it, unfortunately, via Clutch Points. But there's a quote from Jaylen. He's sitting down in a chair. He goes, quote, "Last year is over, to be honest. We celebrated. We had a good time. Now we got the target on our back. Everybody's trying to come after us." And I'm like, come on. I mean, I am Jaylen locked in on August 21st.
Yeah, man.
I'm so ready for this season already. Like Jalen's already locked in.
The pool.
Great.
In the pool, lifting weights underwater.
Dude, I mean, he used to make those video series back in the day, like Home Pressure It Makes Diamonds and all that stuff. Like I used to love the Jaylen summer content wheel. Was always really great. His whoever does his stuff, or was doing his stuff at that time was really great, and it got me through some dark times. That's for sure. Just watching.
I mean, not to give you guys both a raging Porzingis in your pants, but you remember the last time we got these underwater workouts, Jaylen had the best season of his career. That was his Supermax All-NBA year. So if those are now back into the mix, I can't even imagine the ceiling we're about to reach with him this year. So
I'm sure, and like KG retweeted it, and he I don't remember what the comment was, but obviously fully supporting the just the wild man that Jaylen Brown is. I'm not sure. I don't know if you guys can help me with this. No one's going to confuse me with a gym goer looking at me if you're watching the video. So I'm not the guy to have the knowledge here. I'm sure other guys do this, and we just don't see the pictures. Can't imagine Jaylen Brown is the only person that's doing these underwater workouts. But what does this do for you? Like, I'm sure there's value in it. I'm not like dismissing it. But like, what is he doing? What is this helping him with?
Maybe resistance and balance training.
Yeah, I was gonna say because of the buoyancy, maybe like you don't realize how tired your body's getting until you're out of the water. Stamina, lung capacity, so maybe his breathing will be better and he won't get tired and fatigued during a game. I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing. Not a gym or workout guy. I mean, I'm not going to the bottom of my pool and lifting weights, but I would just imagine it has something to do with like breath control, stamina, your body, your muscles, how they react underwater. Maybe you can lift more. Couldn't even tell you, but whatever it does, it clearly works. So I would hope he keeps doing it.
Feels like such a LeBron, Russell Wilson, like cryo chamber kind of thing to do. But,
well, he did bring his own cryo chamber to the bubble, if you remember. He had his own hyperbaric chamber. Actually. Yeah, so it's whatever he's doing, it's working. So please keep it up.
Yes, no, without a doubt. I mean, there's not a man lacking in motivation. There's no doubt about that. And you love to see it, especially after he got that fat contract going out and right on the heels of it. The multiple MVPs there in the playoffs. So good on Jaylen, other than that terrible summer. That just
He just looks like he's in great shape, though. Right? I mean, he's cut out. I mean, holy
shredded.
I'm telling you, him and Tatum are both having like historic all-time summers. If you just like in life, it's truly unbelievable.
All right. Well, like I said before, check out the podcast. If you missed any of this one or even previous shows like last week's with Chad, do check it out. Celtics Beat, search it wherever you get your podcasts. Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll be back at you next week. It's at that point in time. I mean, looking at the calendar, I don't know if it'll be we'll be on the cusp of September anyway. I don't know if we'll quite be there, but it's going to be coming. Training camp and regular season, preseason, all that stuff is right around the corner here. So, Greeny, always a pleasure, man. I'm sure we will talk to you again before the season tips off, but always a treat having you.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
All right. For Dan Greenberg, again, Barstool Sports. For Evan Valenti, I'm Adam Kaufman. We'll talk to you soon.